Hello, and welcome to the Author of Your Own Story show, where each day we give you a tip, trick, insight, or interview into your 5 to Thrive. That means on Monday, you're getting something on the mind. Tuesday, we cover the body. Wednesday, the soul. Thursday, relationships. Friday, business. And on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you get mixed bag where you never know what's coming. But every show is designed to give you another opportunity to up-level your game and become the author of your own story. Let's get started. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Author of Your Own Story show. I'm super excited to have this guest. I have Len Wright with me. Len is such an amazing guy that we've connected. There's so much you can say about Len, and connecting has been great. So Len, when you look at his website, he talks about his mission. His mission is incredible, people. It's to uplift humanity and affect deep and profound change within those that he works with. So Len's not only a husband and a father, but he's been working with people to help them achieve their highest levels. So he's working with achievers, entrepreneurs, influencers, leaders, and big dreamers. And he helps them let go of unresolved issues, break through barriers that hold them back, and reach bigger and loftier goals. So Len, I know that's just the tip of the iceberg, but first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Doug, it's so my pleasure. I really looked forward to this podcast since we've set it up. And I just really appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Well, absolutely. And I have too. And our conversations have been amazing. But fill in the gaps for everybody that may not know you. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your story, and a little bit about what you're up to now.
Wow, that's a mouthful. How long? I've been on this quest of seeking what some people call higher truths, some people call mysteries of life. It's the questions that we all have. Since I was little, I can remember being like 6, 7 years old. And because my family was all older at the time, there were a lot of funerals, a lot of death in the family. I remember at that age wondering, what is life? What is death? What is this going on? And I remember at that age and a little older, always looking at a wizard and going, wow, that'd be so cool. As, superpowers, as kids always do. I always wanted to be the wizard. And now, fast forward, I'm turning 49 in the end of December this year. And I look back and have to chuckle, because really that's sort of what I've adapted into being, is what you call a wizard. I call myself a mystic advisor, because it's really difficult to drill down and explain what I do. I spent the last 30 years intensively in trainings and certifications, gaining tools that optimize and allow you to be able to really run the machine that we all are. We always joke, that we wish there was a guidebook or something that allowed us to be able to run ourselves better. Be able to tap into something greater within us that we all feel there is. So that's been my study for the last 30 years intensively. And I have to say, for my whole life, really, it's been the motivating factor of fascination behind everything I do. So now, fast forward a long time, it's what I do with everything in my life right now. I endeavor to live these principles that I've uncovered over that 30-year span. And really, it comes down and boils down to being actually happy in this journey. Being actually happy. Yeah, there's different levels and stages of growth for everybody, but we are all learning. And that's really what I think we're all here for. The purpose here is evolution. And the only way to do that is through challenge. It's the only way a rock is made into a pearl, and it's the only way that carbon is made into a diamond. And we are made of the same material that a pearl is. We're made of the same material a diamond is. And those challenges that we have in our life pressure us, force us into being absolutely a more valuable, gem-worthy being. And so that's really that. And, alchemy, esoteric sciences, mind sciences, subconscious manipulation, and tools of all different types like that has been where I've been swimming for the last 30 years.
That's so great. There's so many things to unpack, and you and I've been fortunate to have conversations with you off the air. But one of the things that's really interesting, I was just thinking about this the other day, is my wife had she was setting up her computer as we're traveling around North
Mhm.
America, and there's a software update, right? No big deal, right? You update your software. But how many of us actually take the time and work with somebody to update the software of our mind, our conscious and our subconscious level? And I think that's so important that most people just miss that whole concept. Uh,
Yeah.
where do you see these updates or these software updates coming into play with most people that are on their journey as they're trying to move to this new level of consciousness or to this new desire that they have?
Well, that's an interesting question because what came into my mind right away is there's a principle that not many people understand or really know. It's a very deep concept in esoteric community, and really it speaks to that level where most people are at. Most people don't even realize that there is software. Most people are identified with their thoughts and their minds so much that they don't realize that they create them.
Hmm.
They are just them. And so when you look at the principle I was mentioning, or I pointed to, the principle is harmony through crisis. And so again, when you look at the challenges, that's I think where most people are in our society nowadays, especially in Western society, is that we don't even realize that the computer's running all the time. And we've become more slaves to that computer and are running around trying to chase its tail or its meaning. And realizing and wanting to get rid of at the same time, might I say, of the challenges in our life so that we can quote unquote get on with our life. And one of those updates that really hopefully takes place in everybody's life, and it does at different levels of growth, let's say, that is the understanding that you're not your thoughts, that your thoughts are created by you, and that they can be utilized if you understand how to play with them, how to manipulate them, and not identify with them. So, as one of my favorite, Doug, I think we were mentioning this on the phone call that we had. One of my favorite sayings is Socrates saying, "Know thyself,"
Hmm.
and that's really what you're talking about: is updates of ourself, not only new versions but new understandings of who we are. And so the updates, for my understanding, for when they should take place, it's moment to moment. When they are taking place is moment to moment. It's never not happening. This computer program that's running and updating us or endeavoring to run updates through us. And you ever had an update going and then all of a sudden it realized, oh, it's got to restart my computer. So
Yeah.
you try to turn off, postpone it to
Mhm.
when it's a more convenient time. This is what people are trying to do with their experiences.
Mm.
Let's postpone this rattling of my cage until a better time. I want to get on with actually what I want in this moment.
Hmm.
And that's where people are falling, because really the only valuable thing in the moment is the thing that's rattling.
So would you, in that case, Len, for somebody that you're working with or somebody that's listening to this, I know they're hearing this and they're saying, okay, the sweet spot's outside my comfort zone. There's a lot of things that get talked about this. Would you encourage someone to run towards that fear or that uncomfortable area? Or is that something that you would tell somebody that just let it be and let that flow through them?
Both. It really depends. There's in everything with let's call it spiritual, although that's a loaded word. What I mean by that is really who we are and what we're here for, and everybody in running. I'm not putting dogma on it. Um, Really, when you look at that whole thing, we're only here to be able to challenge ourselves and grow. That's really what we're here for. Everything else is the extras in life. It's the accessories in life. So I think that a lot of that idea has been misled through our educational system, through our government, through everything else, and we're always looking outside of ourselves. So when we look at a fear versus, as you were saying, being with it, it's both. Because yes, you want to actually come up and break through, move through your fears. They're usually irrational. They're most all the time illusionary within our minds. Most of the time, they're not really happening. So yes, you want to face those, you want to walk through them, but you don't want to do it with the same energy that fear is actually made up of. which is push, pressure. You
Mhm.
can do it. Go, go, go. Hunt, challenge. The masculine. See, that is what makes up the essence of the energy that is fear. The push.
Mhm.
So you don't actually want to break through your fear in the same way that's made of fear. Otherwise, you're not really breaking free of it. You're just actually going into another version of it. So at the same time as you got to have enough guts to actually stand up to that monster, the same time is what I tell everybody is to cultivate a loving and gentle path or way, method of walking through that with yourself. Because by forcing yourself through, you do damage to yourself at the same time. It's like pulling yourself through the obstacle course instead of taking your time and making sure you don't get hurt. And in doing that, the waiting, like Lao Tzu says, wait till the muddy water clears.
Mhm.
That's sometimes the best way to do it. But at the same time, you're not affected by the fear in that you're moving away from it. It's a big subject. I'm glad we got a little bit of time.
Well, there's so much that can be unpacked here, right? And so
Yeah.
let me do this. Let me bring it down to a typical listener or potentially typical listener's
Okay.
question. So here I am. I'm starting a new business, and the struggles, so to speak, that come with starting a new business. There, product launches, things that are coming in, HR, law. And it seems overwhelming to me. I have big, lofty goals. I want this to be $1 million company. How do I both push myself and embrace the spirit of flow?
Okay, so when you have kids, so this is perfect. A lot of our listeners probably have kids, and if not, we've been kids. So, and we see them, we understand. Okay, so you give your kids time to go play with some other kids. Okay, they run off all together, laughing and giggling and making plans to play. Okay, you've seen this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when they're doing that, along the way, do they allow any of that game that they're playing all together and creating in the moment to get really, really heavy?
No.
Do they create expectations of what's involved in them having to perform a certain way?
No.
What if they did?
Well, if they create those expectations, that causes them to stress. And sometimes those kids choose not to play, perhaps, or they step out, or they underperform because of what they're thinking of, or they
Right,
cry.
right. Yeah, exactly. They somehow move away from their goal, right? And that's exactly what I'm saying we should do. We don't treat life like it's the gift it is, Doug. We treat life like it's something to achieve, something to accomplish, that we can actually really add anything to this life. There's none of us that can give life. None of us can add another moment on when it's done. And yet we still think we have to fill our lives with everything. It doesn't mean that we don't achieve and accomplish and have fun, but that's the point. If they're not having fun doing those things, then the expectations are actually building limitations against it. They're actually building against themselves.
I love that.
Right? So when you think about it from a kid's point, from those children, yes, you start your own business. Fantastic. Why are you starting this business? What is it for? Who is it serving other than just you? What bigger picture is there? How are you going to leave a legend behind when you're gone? How are you impacting this world with your presence in this time? See, so much of us are like, oh, pay the bills, do this, do this. Well, we got to do this. We got to. No, you get to. It's not a got to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a get to. And if we actually lived our life from that, embracing the get tos instead of the got tos, my favorite saying is life actually happens for you instead of to you. In the other game you're playing, from the entrepreneur that actually says, okay, I'm starting this own business, I'm so overwhelmed. Well, great, let's take it all away from you then. And say you're in prison, you can't do it at all. How do you feel about it?
Hmm.
There's the feeling of, oh geez, no, I wish I could do that. That gives me this. Right. So grab onto that and hold on to it through it. So one of the biggest things we don't understand about ourselves is the ability to change our states and the ability to choose what kind of experience we have. That's what we have versus what, as an example, an animal has. A raccoon, as an example, doesn't really choose consciously how to red carpet his next moment. His his intuitive nature is built in intuition and instinct. But it's not a conscious thought process. It is with us. There's a reason why. It's because it facilitates our evolution. It moves us forward. The ability to look and go, okay, hold on, I've got this big meeting, or I've got this stuff to do today. I've got to open this account. I've got to put this content out. I've got to create this content. I want to accomplish these things. Okay, so first, I'm going to actually bring into the fact of why am I doing this, and really bring in the essence of I get to. I'm actually fortunate enough that I get to do this with my day. So then I'm in more of a grateful state. Now, none of this, by the way, I'm a perfect time to slot this in. None of this is like pansy ass positivity. I'm all about results. I work with a lot of top performers in the world, and it is all about the results that these things give you. And you being in a state of gratefulness and presence is the most productive state you can be in. You being in a state of overwhelm, as we know, creates limitation on you and is a very harmful state for yourself. It creates acid in your body. It takes years from you, and it allows you to not be your best. So all Socrates was talking about is know the vehicle you're driving so that you can drive it at your top speed. You can race your vehicle because you know how to race. If you don't know what's under the hood, if you don't know how to shift your gears or your states, then how are you going to be able to be in a race with other individuals that do know how? It's how to be able to be at the absolute top of your game is to be able to manage yourself to be at the top of your game. And if you're in a low state, you know you're not going to be productive. You're not going to get the same results. You're not going to close the sale as well, and you're not going to get the content done in these examples, as well as if you were in a state of gratitude and loving life in that moment. Content then will flow out of you with a lot less effort.
So true. I mean, Len, we could talk about this for hours. I know we can.
Days, I think.
Yeah, probably. And there's so many things here, and I want the listeners or people listening to this or watching this on YouTube, and this will be there, is to think about one of the things I think that you say so eloquently, but is understated, is language matters. And the way that you say, like, I need to do this, I have to do this, versus I get to do this. I have, and I think that's something that a lot of people are missing, is that the language that we choose to use at any given moment can dictate our experiences. And not only that, we can pick what we make those experiences mean, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't just can, it does. Mm-hmm. We are always constantly painting the next moment with the language that we're speaking. And that's why it's called spelling. That's why in our language, we call it spelling, to spell a word. And that actually is complete truth, esoteric truth. It actually is used that way for a reason, because when we speak and we use language, we paint the experience with that meaning. And you were talking about meaning too, and it's right. It's like, okay, this experience I don't really want. So every experience, or every way that we explain that experience or clarify it to ourselves is going to be in the terms of I don't want. So then the experience mirrors that back to us in something that we don't want, because that's what we've asked for. It's very simple. It's a simple process, not easy by any means, but simple in that everything is a mirror. So your language goes out. So first it's the thought. You have this thought, I want to start a business. I want to do this. Then you start talking about it inside your head to yourself. And depending on what your beliefs are, where you're at, how much you know about yourself, the thought may be, or the thought processed as language inside may be, yeah, but I'm not good enough. Yeah, but I don't have the money. Yeah, but I don't have this. Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, but I. right? Well, if that's the case, then the experiences outside then know exactly how to form themselves, because then they mimic to be able to match that language. All life is just a match game.
Mm.
And how you're matching it, how you're setting up your match to what you'll match with, is your language, your thoughts, and the actions that come from those two.
So I'm going to break this down, and I want you to keep going here, but I'm going to interrupt for a second because I want to break this down because I can see somebody listening to this going, wow, this is amazing, but how does this apply to me?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to give a quick analogy if I can, is
Please.
everybody here that's wanted a car, desired a car, I'm going to make it up. Let's just say it's a black pickup truck that you've always wanted and you never see them around, and all of a sudden, as soon as you set your desire on this black pickup truck, all of a sudden they appear everywhere. All of a sudden, it seems like everybody has them. And the reality is they've always been there. You're just now becoming conscious to them. And that's what you're saying is the same thing with these thoughts, right? These desires. You get what you focus on.
400 billion bits of information at every second is coming into us. So out of that 400 billion bits of information, our apparatus of thought has to take that and boil it down through the architecture of what we believe about the moment, what meaning we place on it. It then funnels it through and sorts it to the point where a qualified 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information. So from 400 billion bits down to single digits, 7 plus or minus 2, depending if you're having a good day, you get 9 bits of information that you get to focus on any given second. But there's 400 billion coming in, so a lot, well, not even the majority, all of it pretty much gets filtered out. And only what you've chosen, depending on the meaning and the belief system, what you've chosen to believe comes into you, so that it gives evidence and proof to your belief. So when people say nothing ever works out for me, and they talk about it all the time, and that's their belief inside, how can anything work out for them? That would work against the law. That would mean in gravity, we'd throw the ball up and it would never come down. No, it's a law. It's a principle. It just happens. All that happens in the other is that there is a mirror set up. The world is a mirror going to mirror back that true belief of what that person has about themselves. And then they're going to see it over and over again. And the real meaning of the real device that it's used for in the back is so that you can actually move out of that belief. It's not to keep you there, but it's a choice if you want to stay there. Mm-hmm. See, it's all love. It's never not happening. It's all love for you. What you choose, you are the genie. What you choose, but you choose it by how you think of something, how you speak of something, and how you feel about it and how you act towards it. The feeling you have towards something is extremely valuable. What you're explaining is, I call the yellow car syndrome, right? Because that's exactly it. Like, once you buy a vehicle, you see it everywhere. Well, it was there before, but you deleted it because it wasn't part of the 5 or 9 bits of information that you kept, because it wasn't part of your belief system. Now that it is, now you see it. That's huge. Because when you believe something, when you place meaning on an experience of some type, you funnel it right down so that it fits in and proves that meaning. As you said earlier, though, we get to choose what meaning we put on. So then in effect, what we're doing is becoming the cause, setting up the effect we want.
I love it. So Len, practical advice for someone listening to this. And one of the things that I have people do, especially when it comes to lack of abundance, right? A common thing that people talk about, no money, there's no one that loves me, whatever that is I typically will have them every day find some source of abundance. I'm going to use abundance for this example. Maybe it's wealth, right? Some source of wealth in their life, and write it down at least 5 times a day. Now, of course, more is better, but at least 5 examples of wealth to set their radar towards wealth more. And, again, it could be anything. Would you agree with that, or is there something different that you practice?
Well, yeah, definitely. And really, I mean, if they looked inside of themselves, it's pretty easy how to be able to tell what our beliefs are about something if we're honest. And that is really, have the thought about it. How do you feel? See, your feelings and emotions are signals, right? And I say this as a way of getting this through, as an allegory way of being able to explain it. But it's like, can you imagine, a committee of making humans? right? Whether you want to put dogma into that or not. And they're sitting around the table going, okay, look, we want them to have the best experience possible. So how do we get these people that are usually thick as a brick? How do we get them to understand what's good for them and what's bad for them? And somebody says on the table, well, why don't we make it painful when it's not a good way they're thinking about it? And why don't we make it feel good when it's a good thing for them and a good way to make it? Well, they could never screw that up. Could they? And so that's what we do. We go into our feelings, we become that, and then we spread it. And that's the opposite of what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to see, oh, this feels bad for me. I'm thinking about it. I'm perceiving it. I'm putting meaning on this thing that's not true for me. So as an example, when I say about the abundance, when I go back to that, okay, and a person is like, right away they feel jealous as an example because their friend is making more or their friend got something that they didn't get. That feeling is the feeling of lack that they're made up of. That needs to be addressed and needs to be somehow forgiven inside themselves. They need to get okay with that. And the feelings are telling them. They'll be able to tell. Think of something that they absolutely love to do. They'll be able to feel wonderful inside. You need to actually put money in that place. So you need to look for ways, like you said, look for ways you're grateful about it. Find things that it does serve you for. You know, it's a big subject. It's usually, I mean, I'll work on with somebody on this, and usually for the first couple months we're working on things, just a house clean. All these belief systems that they have inside themselves because they put so much pressure on having to be right, having to be successful, and having to get all of this so-called perfect. And entrepreneurs are some of the worst because perfect doesn't exist, Doug. You know, we both know that. Perfect doesn't, you're chasing the tail of the dog. Once you think you get it, what have you got? The whole process of what we're talking about, learning, putting yourself through where you feel a limitation. I see lack in my life. I'm not getting what I want in my life. Well, in some way, shape, and form, you either don't believe that you're valued enough to do it, you're not following through, or you just don't want to be doing what you're doing. There's something about it. There's something, you can tell that your passions, you do them all the time. And I talk with some people and they're like, well, I'm not making money in this thing I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about the thing you're doing. And they're like, well, okay, so, and then I'll go through and they'll use all the language that is a have to, that is a overwhelm, that is a limitation. It sounds, you hear them and it's all more of a negative, more of a pull down, more of a, ugh. And then I'll say, what's the most passionate thing you do in your life? What's the thing you love, you would do if you had nothing else to do in your life? And they'll go and they'll be like, wow, oh, I do this, and that, and their voice, their tempo, their tonality, their state, their essence, their language, everything is different. And then they wonder why they're not making money. Because the essence they're giving to it is not ah. And you can't fake it. Here's the thing, right? You can't fake it because it's going to still show up. It's cleverly designed by the designer, the great architect, to be able to have you face it no matter what you do. You're going to face this thing that's you needing to hone yourself. You're going to face it again and again and again until you see that it's an illusion about yourself that you create. It's not true. You are an abundant creature. How many cells do you have in your body? And even those every 7 years are brand new. How could you say you're not an abundant being? You're only looking in one small method or value system, and you're comparing yourself and putting expectations against beliefs that you don't even believe you should have it. See how much weight that is? If you did that to your child about being a good boy or a good girl, you'd end up with an absolute narcissist, nervous wreck, anxiety-ridden. But you just allow them to be children, play. Yes, there's certain disciplining times and steering, but it's done in a loving way. Why don't we do that to ourselves? Why don't we treat ourselves like the children that we have?
So, Len, when you're working with someone, are you using NLP techniques to do this, or are you using another means of really putting them back in that different state and position?
Lots of different tools. It's been 30 years. I started with NLP back in the mid 90s, and got my master practitioner. Worked with Richard Bandler and John Laval. Shout out to them. They're amazing individuals. If you're doing anything with NLP, they're the only ones to go to in my book, my humble opinion. But they began it, and it really started my altered state work as well back then. So yeah, I do use that. I do use hypnosis techniques. I use language patterns, hypnotic language patterns. Don't I? Just kidding. I use a lot of reframing, and at the same time, I've also been studying esoteric material, truth, basically at a bottom line, hermetic philosophy, all that type of stuff for many decades as well. So that comes into it as well. Hypnosis, accelerated evolution is another technique that is newer and more powerful in my eyes. I've been using a lot of that. My brother Satyan Raja trains that, and really all the different types of tools coupled with truth. So what I do is and truth in an airballing sense, what I do is I will teach a client the principles of natural law, like cause and effect, polarity, all of those rhythm, all of those things, and how it pertains to their experiences in living life, so that they can apply them in their experiences. So I do that, and at the same time, we're cleaning the beliefs in the slate free of all the limitation that they believe about themselves and the world through processes that are NLP, accelerated evolution, hypnosis, and psycholinguistics treatment. So it's really, for me and with my clients, we come from both sides, so that it's an understanding of what's going on, plus also some tools that can get it gone fast, so that you don't recreate it. Because that's what I found, is a lot of people will recreate because they don't understand that they created the thing to begin with by accepting that belief. So then they get through it, let go of the belief about money. Now they're abundant in money. But if they don't understand that they created that thought of lack, it was what they gave to it that gave them back. If they don't fully understand that first, then in another area of their life, they will then believe lack is available there as well. And so that then maybe if they're dating, maybe that's, now I have a lack there. It's the understanding that the truth is there is no lack in anything. You can even say to the point where, how much lack do you believe in? Well, I believe there's a lot of lack. Well, could you say it's an abundance of lack? See, we too firmly place importance on what we say we believe, Doug. And yet beliefs are really, they change all the time. So instead of getting stuck in an expectation, a life that we have to actually live up to, why don't we just live into life? Get into a flow that's gentle and loving and enjoyable. And then these other successes, if we want to call them that we rent in our life, they become secondary. That's what they're meant to be. Because the other is why we're here. That's always the first, should be in our life. Thought comes first, so that should be the first thing that we study. Then after we understand that, then all the accessories of life, then it comes. My favorite, I'll go to, all holy books have this, so it's not just the Bible, but they all have this one scripture, and I think I've mentioned to you in our call, is seek first the kingdom and all else will be added to you. So in different languaging, just a touch, but you can see it's the same exact in every holy book. What that means is that inner kingdom of yours, that thought kingdom, that realm that is you at the depth, that needs to be looked after and understood first. And then from there, of knowing yourself, as Socrates said, then you move forward. Then it's a gentle ride. Otherwise, how do you not have a gentle ride? How is it not bumpy if you don't understand that you're creating the rocks you're putting in front of you?
Love
you just keep creating them.
Love it. So, Len, I know I'm setting myself up here, but as I am with a lot of these questions. But so walk me through this. Do you have a routine that you follow that works well for you? Like a daily routine?
I don't have a routine. No, I end up doing pretty much similar things in my day. If you were to ask my daughter, she'd laugh and go, routine, huh? It's mostly meditation. and my work in between, which is my lifestyle as well. So I end up just spending my days with my family, enjoying my days, doing any hobbies and working with clients. I check Facebook, communicate with friends on it, and meditate. And that's pretty much most of my days. It's taken a long time to get there, in that kind of life, but it's something that I've designed and created for myself. So routines, not so much. I like to flow with it. But, as I'm saying that, really, if you looked at my everyday that way, it would sort of be a routine that I look at myself and just go lifestyle. I'd much rather one of my clients after working with me go, I have a lifestyle than I have a routine. A routine sets something up that you have to actually be putting effort to keep up all the time. Where if it just becomes a lifestyle, it's an expression from you, then you don't have to think or plan. Like when I come on podcasts such as this one, I have no idea exactly what we'll be talking about. I have no planning and I have no preparation. And it's not because I don't respect it. It's because I do respect it. I know presence to this and tapping into that greater within myself is the most productive that I can be in that moment. So me trying to figure out what I'm going to say and trying to put all this effort into preparing actually does me a disservice, because then I get more anxiety, I get more nervous about it, I create all these expectations of having to do it in a certain way. And I don't do that. I actually, in the other way, I give it up and let's just flow with it, because I know the information is me. I don't have to think of saying it right or doing it right. My intention is set and then I follow with the intention.
Is it also, and I do the same thing, so I totally get it. Is it also fair to say, though, when you're also speaking, you've already, so to speak, put in the work. You have the knowledge base.
Yeah. I mean, I do it every day. It's not something that is ever going to be done. Right. It's as Michelangelo, when he was 87 years old, one of his famous quotes is, "I'm still learning." Mm-hmm. And so you're right. Teacher always has to go first. And that means if it's even teacher to ourselves, we have to put this stuff into practice. Like every listener out there, I mean, even if this is, fairly new to you, you still know what's right and wrong within you for yourself. And I mean right and wrong from a way of, is it on path for you? You know that getting after yourself and calling yourself names and being basically a drill sergeant for all the stuff you have to routinely get done in your day, you know that that's not good for you down deep inside. You wouldn't treat your loved one that way, hopefully. So the question remains, if you wouldn't treat a loved one that way, but you treat yourself, how much love do you have for yourself? See, unless we figure that stuff out first, Doug, it's very difficult to be able to be at your top game. Because then when we get into it, when we're doing the content, as an example, when we're doing the other, then we'll fall. All of a sudden, we'll have a limitation. Be doing a video and be like, oh no, what are people thinking of me? And then because we haven't done work on it, now we're spiraling into this whole thing about our looks and our ego, and then the content reflects that.
I've definitely been guilty of that. No doubt about it. Especially when it comes to video. It took me a long time to get into the groove of not caring, which really surprised me. Is doing so much personal development work over the past couple of decades. This has got to be about 4 years ago or so. When I started doing a lot of video, it was never good enough. And that conversation would start playing in my head halfway through the video of, wait a minute, am I talking the right way? Is the background okay? And then it takes you completely out of what, my wife would say when she coaches people is where your feet are. Be where your feet are at that moment. And you're completely out of it at that point.
Yeah, you're out of the flow. That zone is gone, and you get in your own way again.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been guilty.
Well, and we all have in that way. I was jokingly gonna poke and say, is that why we're not doing video? But no, you see, this is the thing that everybody needs to really realize and grasp. If they grasp nothing else than this, just take away this, you're doing awesome. You're living without the guidebook that is telling you exactly how to do things. You're not taught. Society doesn't teach it, doesn't do it. So we all know certain little things in our life that's better for us. Just start doing those. Start treating yourself more kindly, more gently. Start being your own cheer squad. Start looking for validation within you instead of without yourself. The answer, one of the biggest secrets to esotericism and to the whole world of living a higher life, Doug, is something we talked about before, and that is the difference of thinking the world outside comes first. The real secret is you have to actually live from the inside world out. Then you have some control over it. Mm-hmm. If you can be the cause to an effect that way. But if you're looking at your outside world, it's already been created. It's the effect already. And if you're trying to change out there, you just continually are the hamster running the wheel. Because once you've got the experience and you change it, the cause hasn't been changed. So then you'll just create it again. And then this is happening again. Why does this always happen to me? It's because you follow the idea every time. It's because you follow the train of thought that leads you to that effect every time. You're not there. You're asleep at the wheel. And it comes up as the Bible says, it steals your attention. Store up treasures in heaven, the heaved up place, your head. Store up treasures in heaven where neither moth nor dust can consume and where thieves cannot come in and steal. If we're talking about the outside world in any way, shape, and form, none of those things would apply because it can be stolen, it can deteriorate, it can decay. The only thing that can't is within us. So that's really where I'm coming from, is we live from a place that's different, from within, controlling the thoughts, giving ourselves the best possible start in anything we possibly can do. In a business, it's, maybe I can do this. Maybe if I take the pressure off of myself and I absolutely just free fall and have fun with it, not caring about what anybody else thinks, what would be possible for me? Who am I playing this game for? Who am I trying to please, when in reality I wouldn't ask this person for their advice on life, but now I'm living my whole life to please them. All this stuff needs to be dealt with and brought to the surface and freed from you before you can really be exactly who you're meant to be here. But the whole point is the experiences that you're given in your life every day is what actually helps you move into that higher place. They're there as your stepladders constantly.
Well, this is so relevant. And one of the things I don't talk about in this podcast, or I haven't in the past, is I run mastermind groups for business owners. And what came up today was a common question. And I think this applies to exactly what you're saying and to a lot of our listeners is, we do a thing called hot seats. People come on, very typical. They share the biggest thing that's going on. Well, this person's business was growing very fast, very quickly. And they said, hey, look, I need something. This is the third time they brought up this subject when I've been involved, is I need some tips and tactics to be more productive. I said, wait, it's not the tactics, it's the mindset. Get the mindset first. Sure, tactics and hacks and things are helpful, but you got to deal with the mindset. If you're having a repeating pattern of an issue, it's the mindset that's the problem. It's not the tactics, the hacks. Those will change. And that's exactly what you're saying.
100%, Doug, 100%, exactly. And it really, tips and tactics are still working on the effect. Mm-hmm. So you still bring the same. Here's the thing. In every part of your life, you bring one thing into it. You. Unless you change the core you're just going to continue bringing it into ever different parts of your life and experiences. It recreates itself over and over again. It's the fractal part of reincarnation in our life that continues on the same lessons until we learn what that lesson is trying to teach us, and then all of a sudden the cycle doesn't happen in our life anymore. That happens for a lot of people with addiction, as an example. They'll run through that whole experience and they hate themselves at the beginning. Absolutely can't stand themselves and trying. It's a self-mutilation technique, the addiction. And then they go through this whole thing and they actually learn how to be able to have a relationship with themselves, how to work themselves inside, and how to love themselves through it. And then all of a sudden they get these tools, they stop the addiction, and they become a much higher version of themselves. So was the addiction a bad thing for them? Without the addiction, would they have reached the same level height without it? all of these things that were, Guy Finley, one of my favorite authors, has always said, the things that are most valuable to us in our life are the things that we usually push away, do not want. And that's what we're talking about is, the overwhelm that you mentioned before in business. It's really, overwhelm is a big importance on what we don't want in the moment. And so it's a resistance. And so the overwhelm, all it feels like is, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want this. I don't want to do this. I don't think I can. When in reality, if you took it in bite-sized chunks, without the expectation, put some music on, had fun, as an example, it turned up something within yourself that you were enjoying it, it would speed by. You can manipulate anything in this realm, even time. Look at as an example, time. People say time's illusion, then how could that be? You can manipulate it as your experiences. If you're having a blast, if you're having fun, I'm just gonna say, if you're making love with someone, it's just out of this world, you're having a great experience. How quickly does the time go? It's never enough time. Boom, gone. Now stand in a lineup taking something back on just after Christmas, Boxing Day, and the lineup's all around the block, and you're just standing there and ringing. How long does the lineup take for you? And that is really telling you that the meaning you place on something actually has an epic effect to how you experience it. In the lineup, if you instead turned where, I brought an umbrella, I got some music here, I put in my earbuds, I'm listening, or I have a friend that I'm going to call. How about I have my friend come over? I'm at least an hour in here. Why don't my friend come over, bring me a coffee, and we can actually sit and talk and have a great conversation. That happens, and all of a sudden we're in this conversation. Oh, we're up already. Time went by. If you learn how to work your apparatus, it's the same way. You have something like overwhelm that comes up. Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed inside. How can I turn this overwhelm? How can I transform this overwhelm into something that's actually going to be a value for me and help me through this? Help me be more productive. Well, it's not the push through it. It's the, what could I add? On a podcast, I have a tea next to me here. It's just one little thing that I enjoy sipping on every once in a while. And I get a good feeling about it. It's just small, but it's one thing. I may do a few things like that make it feel, I'm feeling better about it. I'm feeling cozier. I'll enjoy it more. And then all of a sudden, by doing that, our state of resistance lessens. The least resistance then brings up better productivity. Resistance is just that. It's friction. It slows down. You don't have higher resistance on a car in the brake system and go faster. It doesn't have that. It doesn't work that way. Resistance slows down. Resistance adds weight. Resistance moves everything, molasses it up, quicksands it up. And so when you understand that moneyness of it, that effect of that energy, you now can actually go in and go, okay, hold on, I'm feeling resistant. There's nothing about me that really wants to do this. Or going to a kid's soccer game, your kid's soccer game on Saturday, and you go, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I don't want blah, blah, blah. Then use language to spell us into or conjure up a situation where we're feeling gross about it and the time drags. When in reality, we could have used the same thought process to be able to go, you know what, I have a kid and they're healthy enough to play soccer. I wonder how many parents around the world would wish that they were being in the same situation, be able to go and watch their kid play soccer today. The hospital rooms where the kids are laying up dying, having different diseases. I wonder, how lucky am I that I get to do this today? Now that's just an example. We could use thousands of different methods of doing that. But now moving our state into something we're grateful for, now we're in a little bit eager, a little bit looking forward to the experience. So now we make different decisions based on the thoughts we have and the perception that it's something we don't mind doing or even want to do versus something we're trying to get rid of. And that even actually goes through to the child actually in this experience too, because if we don't want to do it, we're going to snap at the child, we're going to be more gruff, we're going to be not wanting, they're going to not feel the attention from us of love. It goes and it will absolutely taint with poison everything in the experience, what we're going through and feeling, what we're emitting. Whereas in the other one, when we're grateful, all of a sudden the child feels loved and that we want to be there. Then all of a sudden we grow in the child more love. They're more productive in their game. They have a win. Everything. Do you notice the stream follows the line of thought that I buy into? That's the power we have. Power of choice.
I love it. There's so many things I want to unpack there, Len, with you. And speaking of time, this time I just looked down. I was like, oh crap, how'd this go so quickly again?
Version 2, we'll have to actually make this a series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to talk about esotericism. I want to get into so many different topics with you that we just don't have the time for this show. But I'd love to have you back on. Would you come back on for another one?
100%. You tell me when I'm there.
Excellent. I know everybody's going to be chomping at the bit. So, Len, let's leave somebody with something they can do, some practical advice that they can take away from this conversation and put into their practice today. What would that be?
Okay, I got 2 things for them. They're really simple, easy things. They're going to be like, what? Really? 2 things. Number 1 is stop treating yourself like you're the problem. Although you kind of are. Stop treating yourself like you're the plague, you're the reason why, you're the down. Try feeding yourself with things that uplift you, things that encourage you, things that support you. Watch your language to yourself. Watch how you describe your world. Just that's all. Just observe, watch, because it will be the mirror as to what you're experiencing. Start changing your language, start changing the thoughts about it. It will naturally then flow out in different actions that will then bring about the results that you really want. Be the cause to the effect that you want. Next is when that moment of the change needs to happen, the perceptual change, and you're caught up in that story, you're caught up in the experience, and you're ready to rage, you're ready to say something to somebody, you're ready to beat yourself up, whatever it is. This technique is something that is very, very easy for anybody to do anytime, anywhere. You can do it with your eyes closed, eyes open, whatever. And that's really something you're already doing, but is breathing. And what I want you to do is just take a moment out, even if it's 10, 15, 20 seconds, and start breathing a little deeper than normal, just a little. And I want you to follow the rhythm of your breath and become the breath. And that's all you have to do for 20, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. And you'll notice as you do that, as you focus all of your attention, all your focus on your breath, becoming up, down, not forcing it, just riding along with it, becoming it. When you do that, you'll come to a time maybe 20 seconds after, a minute after, where all of a sudden you feel lighter. Your state has calmed down. You're not in that same negative, let's call it state, resistant state. And what this does for you in the behind scenes is it takes you out of your head, out of your mind, which is creating the problem for you from the perception, and puts you into a kinesthetic, a body feel. You're feeling it. And so removed out of the thought that is hurting you, you'll stop hurting. And so those are the 2 things. If you use those together, watch what cause you're being to the effect. Use the breath to be able to catch a gap in between so that you don't react from the state you don't want to. And be able to think first, what do I want this moment to be? And then go from there.
Love it. You guys heard it here from the master himself. So where can people find you? Between here and the next podcast that you and I are definitely going to do, where can they find you, find out more information about you, your coaching, and all the things you're up to?
Well, the best place is zenlencoaching.com. Zenlencoaching.com, all one word, one phrase. And really, I mean, updating that with content all the time. So they can go in there. I have a free 3-day course, video course that they can do. I have a lot of content that they can actually go through, and they can contact me from there as well. My Facebook page contact is off there as well. Please reach out, say hi, connect with me. I'm always interested in speaking to other individuals who want to raise themselves higher.
Awesome. And you guys, one more note just to think about. A lot of you guys write into me and send me messages and saying, Doug, look, here's the deal. I can't meet other people in my area or in my hometown or wherever I am that are like-minded. They're all, they just want to go out drinking, or they just, I just can't find like-minded people. Len and I connected originally on social media and have had great conversations ever since. So stop using that limited belief as an excuse and go out there and meet great people, connect with Len, and continue these conversations. Len, thanks again so much for being here. I can't wait for the second conversation.
Yeah, Doug, it was so enjoyable, and as I knew it would be, and I really thank you for the time to be on here, and I can't wait for the next one. You mentioned the day, and I'll count it down.
Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
At Author of Your Own Story, we believe in taking a holistic approach to your health, where you aren't just physically healthy, but your entire mind, body, and soul is operating at its most optimal level. To get started in creating holistic health, download our free holistic health checklist at authorofyourownstory.com/body-gift. And don't forget to be the author of your own story.